For years, we have put our faith in the market to incentivize cleaner technology, and for years, the carbon market has been riddled with corruption. And it is still cheaper to pollute and buy carbon credits than it is to change industrial production processes. Our guest today is building a solution that has the potential to change that by simply becoming the largest carbon credit buyer in the world. How he plans on doing that and what does it have to do with blockchain, we will learn directly from Andreas Slettvoll.
Hello, Andreas. Thank you very much for being here and welcome to the Online Crypto Summit.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
So to get started, would you share a bit about your background and what brought you on the path that you are today?
Yes, for sure. Well, I'm one of the founders and CEO of a company called Choose. We're based in Norway and New York. We started up about 16 months ago. We've been in what within the community is called stealth mode for quite a while. And I'll obviously elaborate on sort of the blockchain part of what we're doing, but I think it would make sense to just briefly touch upon what the company Choose is doing and why we're also implementing this blockchain version of what we're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, Choose is what we call a platform for climate positivity. So we're a climate action company actually, but we're not that that green and grumpy and politicized climate action people. So we usually say we're kind of moving stuff from the green and grumpy to the pink and positive. So what we do is we provide super low barrier choices and solutions to people, but with very high impact, as opposed to a lot of the politics out there, with well, in my mind, not so smart solutions with very low impact, but quite high cost. I don't think that's going to save the world, to be honest.
Interesting. I would really like to hear more about that.
Yes, for sure. So we've been doing that for about a year. And the first sort of product we launched, which is not the blockchain product at all, is a monthly subscription for you and me or my mom or sister, for individuals to completely erase their CO2 footprint as an individual. So what we do is we dive into those incredibly boring carbon markets globally, and we buy carbon credits and tear them apart, throw them in the trash on your behalf. So effectively removing your carbon footprint.
So maybe can we go a step back and maybe explain what carbon credits are and how that market works for people?
For sure. It's a chaos, first of all. There's the 28 or 29 different carbon markets globally now, where sort of the overruling one, which is, I wouldn't call it a market, it's more of a program, it's the UN program that started in the Kyoto Protocol and has been around for years. Then you have the closed markets within EU, you have the California market, China is introducing one. So what we do is that we buy these and we throw them away, because the big polluters out there, the coal plants and the airlines and oil companies, they need the carbon credits in order to pollute. So one credit equals 1 ton of CO2.
So these markets provide them with quotas for pollution, basically.
Yeah, correct. So it's kind of a regulatory setup where they can pollute a certain amount, and if they want to pollute more, they have to buy these credits. And there are way too many credits out there, so it's kind of important that we.
So what's where the money goes from buying the credits?
Yeah, that's different from the different markets. So we primarily work with the UN, the UNFCCC, which is sort of the operational arm of the climate panel. That's kind of what we call the Robin Hood story about what we do, because we steal these carbon credits that the big polluters need, and the money goes directly to green and sustainable projects in developing countries. For instance, wind or solar farms in India, where you get sustainable energy production instead of coal, for instance. But the money goes directly towards sustainable projects, creating local jobs, a lot of those sustainable development goals. But what we buy is the CO2 effect, and all the other great stuff is basically buy effects. But that's our backend, the sort of quota carbon credit backend.
But isn't it the same with companies companies that buy those credits? So when they purchase those credits, the money, does it go to sustainable projects as well, or what happens to that?
To a certain extent. To a small extent, for instance, in Europe, as you and I are Europeans, they can buy a certain amount of these UN credits. The majority they have to do from the EU, and then the money will not go to those sustainable projects. But a certain amount, yes. The main difference is when they buy them, they use them.
Yeah, they use them.
Yeah. But when we buy them, we throw them away.
Yeah. All right. So just to make this clear, that in both cases, sustainable projects are supported, but in your case, you're not using the credit, so there is no, it's double benefit actually, because you support greener projects and no further pollution is.
Yes, correct. So we're basically boosting demand side and limiting supply side for the big polluters, which
I love that idea.
Yeah. So it's not a green war, but it's kind of connecting the dots and sort of empowering you and me to have a say at industrial level, and not just sort of the personal, stop driving cars and stop flying and all of that, which is kind of hard to tell people, but rather give an option to really affect the big polluters.
Absolutely, and it's a smart step forward, I think.
Yeah, at least we think so. But it's been incredibly interesting, and sort of that back end, we don't sort of talk too much about it, but because it's not because we think other people won't understand, but it's kind of technical, and it's not too engaging. So we focus on sort of the impact you as an individual or your company can have by using this tool, and rather sort of market it in sort of a positive way. We're not saying all the things you shouldn't do. We're rather give you easy climate positive choices, as we call it.
So how is the project adopted already? How do people look at it when you first tell them? What is the reaction? Do they like it? Are they willing to get on board, to join?
Yes, things kicked off way faster than we thought 1 year ago. So during our first year of operation last year, we ended up with a little bit more than 3,500 subscribers, several major companies as partners, and we were responsible for about 5% of all the CO2 reductions in Norway actually last year, and that was quite amazing, because 3,500 people is not too much, and if we can achieve 5%, then I think those numbers are incredibly interesting. We quite early started to looking at sort of the blockchain implementation based on our wish to really make it free for people to be part of this, and then sort of develop the idea from there. And I wouldn't say to our surprise, because we do believe in this, but it was surprisingly successful. So we won Best Startup of the Year in Norway. We also won the Best Nordic Tech Company at the Extreme Tech Challenge at the CES convention in USA, in Las Vegas, in January this year. So definitely we're onto something, I would say. And I think within the climate space, it's so much negativity. It's so much, it's so politicized. So I would say very simple messaging. We're focusing on the positive things we can do instead of making you feel bad. And we have a very, very high measurable impact. I think timing is right. And I think most people, both people I know and people out there, really want to do something, but it's kind of hard to know what to do. So,
wow. Right. Well, so would you share a bit how the blockchain technology falls into all that, and how do you incorporate that? What are the benefits for the participants?
For sure. Well, we are not a blockchain company. We are an impact company who also does blockchain. I think that's kind of important. So we are an operational business. We're a venture-backed business who are focusing on impact. And we think blockchain technology is an amazing and powerful tool which could boost the impact because that's our only KPI. The only thing we measure is how many tons of CO2 have we stopped this week, you know? And that's what we want to boost, because, you know, we have to do something at global scale. So going into sort of the blockchain concept, which we call the Choose coin, it's about rewarding climate positive behavior. It's about rewarding CO2 cuts, CO2 reductions. As of now, you and me as individuals, or the big companies out there, we can't really sort of monetize our CO2 reductions. It's, you know, you can write it in a nice report if you're a company, or I can tell you or my friends that, hey, I'm driving an electric car, but, you know, you can't really monetize it. So what we're doing is to tokenize the CO2 reductions, effectively rewarding people for the CO2 they're able to reduce, whether their own footprint or a company's footprint. So, and I'll go into how we verify that, but that's sort of step one, is to reduce your CO2 footprint. When that's verified, we will reward you with tokens, and those tokens can be reinvested into further CO2 reducing projects or services, or basically donations as well. So it's kind of a self-empowering ecosystem where the target is always to accelerate further CO2 cuts. That's
Very nice.
sort of the surface of it. And you know, there's and then you should really look into the consensus blockchain for social impact coalition, where we're also a part of that. It's so many amazing projects. Just as a tip to everyone watching. And what I think we have done differently is that we have sort of started building and started looking at the utility of the token, not merely the coding, but how can actually people utilize it? Because it's nice to have a token, but it's even nicer if you can actually use it on something valuable by terms of impact. So we started with the concept of this marketplace where our services are obviously there, like NGO services as donations are there. You can lock the tokens you are rewarded in challenges. For instance, a company needing R&D and help to solve something difficult, and the one who can solve it will get all those tokens. So lock it into sort of R&D challenges, and also be a marketplace where other startups, where tech companies, etc., can offer their, I would say, CO2 reducing services, so that companies and individuals won't have to tap into their real budgets. They can use the Choose coin to get access to deep tech, new tech, clean tech.
Very nice concept.
And in turn, these these startups will then also get access to potential customers and pilot projects, which is sort of the really hard thing to do as a startup, is to get those first customers and get to the table. And we want to accelerate that as well, as long as it's climate positive.
So basically, the Choose tokens will be issued for the impact you create by raising the emissions.
By reducing.
By reducing the emissions. So how can you go a bit deeper into how will that work? So as of now, I can purchase a subscription on your website, and with this you buy some of the available credits, and this is how the emissions are reduced. So next step, how will that token be introduced?
Yeah, in its simplest form, sort of within Choose as it is, then it's kind of simple, because what we do is to buy tons of CO2. But in another use case, be it a company or even an individual, the way it's structured now is that you basically upload the proof of your climate positive behavior. That verification, you sort of claim your tokens, saying this action reduced CO2 with 100 tons, for instance. So I claim 100 tokens, 1 token, 1 ton.
Okay.
Then, depending on how many tokens you claim, the verification of what you've done will be based on a consensus model, where the community as such approves or sort of reduces based on what you have done. So whether or not you will get all those tokens will be entirely decentralized. That's not our business. That's the community business. And the higher the impact you claim, sort of the higher and the more individuals or community members will be engaged in verifying that. So that each token rewarded will represent the effect, the impact of what you've done. So it's sort of an eternal ledger of climate positive proof. So, you know, it's a lot of talk about the different kind of tokens and whether it's asset backed or not. I would say that this is impact backed. I think it's the first impact backed token. And it's hard to say whether or not that's an asset, but it definitely has a value because it's a proof of something really good that has happened. Someone has reduced a ton of CO2. And this is the proof.
Absolutely, yeah, I love that idea. So what challenges do you have ahead of you in your development?
Yeah, we're on the conceptual side. I think we're very mature. On the tech side, it's a lot of development that is happening. We are running as of now actually 2 different test nets in order to finally decide on which platform we want to utilize. So we're running 2 sort of two routes in parallel, and we will conclude that over the next week or 2. We have an amazing set of advisors as of now, with including people like Bill Tai from the board of Bitfury and amazing capacity within the blockchain ecosystem. We just got confirmed Jordan Loijawan, the founder and CTO of Futurism, and several more who we haven't gone public with yet. So sort of the tech advisory team is just mind-blowing to me. The core team, we're in place. We're in Oslo and New York as of now. So going forward, I think it's sort of the hardcore blockchain development, the coding, and building that marketplace. That's where we're heading at. We have released sort of the stealth mode white paper, but we call it the pink white paper, obviously, with us having pink as color, not green. And we will release a public version within some days from the airing of this conversation. So we're happy to share that with anyone. We are all about transparency. We have one focus, and that's impact. So, you know, any kind of feedback, any kind of feedback regarding how to tailor this to both fit companies, because we're not a green war. We work with people, not against. And also how to fit this to individuals like you and me. How can we really, you know, incentivize me to sort of choose this path and not this, because you get rewarded for what is climate positive. So that community build, you know, joining the Telegram groups, just giving us feedback, participating both on technical side, community build. I think we need all the good people we can have, to be honest.
Yeah. So you mentioned a few times that those credits are suitable for you and me and for your friends and family, but also for companies. So
yeah.
Can you say a few more words about that and how businesses can incorporate your model into their CSR processes? I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, the simplest and, in my view, best way is to have it as an employee benefit. That you know, several businesses, they have like insurance or free newspapers. But you know, the biggest concern globally among younger people, that's climate change. It's not war, it's not terror, it's climate change. And not too many companies address that. Not too many companies sort of empower their employees into having a say and actually taking action. So having a choose an our product as an employee benefit, basically erasing the CO2 footprint of your employees, that is incredibly impactful. And you can have so much good communication and, you know, the retain and attract your current and future employees. That's sort of the core. In addition, we plug it into products so that, you know, if I buy this cup of coffee instead of this cup of coffee, we can cut like 100 kilos of CO2 or 1 ton or we whatever our partner decides. So we do a lot of, we tend to be extremely playful with climate action and with plugging into everyday life and creating those climate positive moments.
So for businesses, this could be a differentiation point, choosing to work with Choose.
For sure.
I mean, yeah. So it's very nice.
For sure, and they will have a measurable impact, and then it's up to the Choose Coin community whether or not that impact is sort of verified, and they can also get Choose Coins as reward for the good job they're doing. So it's a crazy business model, but we want to pay people to do good, basically.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, as we're coming to a close, Andreas, would you share your thoughts on the overall development in the industry for the next year? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the development, or just over the last months, things are going so incredibly fast. I think it's very interesting, especially within sort of the space we're operating in, within the impact space and the social impact space. That you see so many projects coming up now, both here in Europe, but also internationally, where I think the creativity is really coming out now. It's not just about payments or peer-to-peer or facilitating transfer of value, but actually, really utilizing blockchain technology for a greater purpose. And I think we need both. But I think sort of from our perspective, that's incredibly interesting. And there's, I could sit for an hour and list great social impact projects. Mm-hmm. So I hope that will continue, and I also hope that those projects will also see some kind of, I would say, sensible funding, not necessarily this ICO craze that has been going on for good and bad, but that we also see, good, solid projects rooted in, real prospects, real people, real impact. And that you have this real life applicability of both the cryptocurrencies, the tokens, and sort of the blockchain use as well. To me, that's where we really go from this this booming new bleeding edge thing that is kind of hard to really understand, into something that we all can do and we all can use, and which will push the world in a positive direction.
Thank you very much for this insightful conversation, and I'm sure our viewers took out a lot of it, and they're very happy that they met you.
Yeah, and they're all welcome, to register for any kind of information at our webpage, choose.today.
Yep, we will leave out some links and information on the page,
yep.
So it'll be easy to access. Perfect.